You got my notes?
I'll look at it soon. We have it.
We created a flyer for the shop, and then the wrong guy claimed he was in guy.
Oh. Okay. First, don't forget.
Hello, Rabbi Morozov.
Would
How are you doing?
commuted Kislev. You have to tell them because one time I was doing the whole thing. They didn't have a stage. They didn't have a chitza. I have to give the guy $20. So I need it. So nobody told me.
Okay.
You have to make sure you just tell them.
Okay.
Stage, he has in the back, and then a chitza to bring.
And if all fails, we have to make sure to bring $20.
Oh. I'm just telling you, we didn't want to do it. So nobody told me. I do what they tell me to do.
All right. Usually, they forgot to tell him once here. I mean, usually they tell.
Okay, what are we speaking
Okay.
about?
How to confront Esav, how to confront Yishmael.
Good.
Now,
Truth is,
and now with this, we
we
need.
really need to know. But it starts with learning a little pshat, and nitpicking a little bit in Rashi, like the Rebbe used to like nitpick in Rashi. And then we'll get to a little bit of the Drush and a little bit of how to fight the war based on the pshat in Rashi and in the Chumash. Let's read very quickly. Pay attention to the details that are going on in the Psukim. Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav alei savachim artz seis de Edom. Vaytzavos umleim b'karsem al adin alei sav kamal avdach Yaakov im lovin garte ve'echan adote. V'yili shor v'chamar tzoyim ve'eved v'shifcha ve'eshlach al hagid ladoin nimtzachem be'inecha. I'd like to find favor in your eyes. We're brothers.
Right.
Let's be friends.
Yeah.
Vayishuv malachim al Yaakov leim bona l'chicha leisav. Ha ha ha. V'gam hoylech lekroscha v'arba meyes ishimay. Like Rashi says, Achicha, you think he's your brother, he's really Esav.
Mhm.
And he's a Rasha still. Vayira Yaakov moed vayetzer loy. Rashi says, what's the double Lashon? Vayira vayetzer. He was scared if Chas v'shalom, any one of his family will get killed. But he was also terrified of the prospect of needing to kill someone else.
Right.
Needing to kill someone else. The Goyim, they love to spill blood with joy. It's the greatest pleasure. But for Yaakov,
How many people Yaakov had that time?
he had his
He had
children.
lots,
He had his children. He had Leah Verochel, Bila Zilpa. He had the children.
No,
And obviously,
fighter.
oh, fighters. I don't know. It's not clear. So, but still, Yaakov was very nervous about that. He split the people. And he said, if Esav will come and kill one group, the other group will be able to run away. That was his strategy. We'll tie him up more with one group, and the other group will be able to run away. Like the Gemara brings, that from here we learn that you don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Gemara says that when you invest, we learn from Yaakov that you invest here and there. Because maybe if this investment will go sour, the other investment will go good. So therefore, and then the Gemara says, shlish, you do a third of your investment here and a third here. We learn it from here. We learn from the Ramban. The Ramban says, unbelievable word. Yaakov Avinu knew that the Jewish nation must always survive. And that's the secret in Golos. If Chas v'sholom, there's one country that the Yidden, Rahman al are being persecuted, there's always going to be another place in the world where the Yidden could find safety. So that was, so he said that, there has to be a nachra and nishra, will have to be laplaita. But the simple reading of the story is that we're going to tie him up. I'm going to get him very busy. I'll get Esav busy. And whenever he's not going to have a chance, he's going to be busy on this war, and the other group are going to run away. They're going to make a vayivrech. They're going to run away. Good strategy. Just like the Gemara says, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So he split up the family. Chas v'shalom, half of them will be killed. At least the other half will survive. I'm emphasizing this part because that's the way until I learned the Sikh, I always learned this the Pshat. I never thought of it from Pshat. Even though I read Rashi to fit my misconception. I never spent that much time on Rashi when I learned Chumash Rashi to try to figure out what Rashi is saying. So if I learned the pasuk and that's what it says, so that's what it says. Okay, let's continue quickly. So yeah, where's the Amunah? That's it seems. Yeah, no, it was a serious lack of Amunah. Maybe half of the. I'm not saying the question. The Rebbe is going to learn the whole thing. It's funny. It's unusual to learn so different. And right.
That's what I'm saying.
But still, he split the family in half. Half might get killed while they're tying up Esav in war, and the other half will survive.
I thought thirds, no?
If you learned it ever differently than me, it's fine. I'm just telling you how I learned every year when I learned the Chumash until I learned the Zicha. I mean, that's the way I learned. And that's the way the Gemara seems to learn it too. That, you tie up your money, half in this investment, half in the other investment. If one goes sour, the other one goes good.
It's a little different.
It's a little different here, and people are going to die. The investment is nishkepela.
But also, Hashem told him to do this. To go back.
To go back.
To go back. Yeah, you should have believe that everything should be
right.
Money, merchandise, and land.
Yeah. He thinks. Yeah. So let's continue. So he splits it and he says, "Voya nasha machem nishul fleita." Vayam Yaakov and Yaakov said, "Elokei Avi Avram, Elokei Avi Yitzchak, Hashem Ha'im Alai Shuv La'atzcha L'Matcha Leitiva Imach." Speak the Eibishter. Gatointim Mekol HaChasod Mekol HaEmes Asher Sisa Savdecho. Ki b'makle v'artes hayav arden zeh v'ata yisul shnei maklenos. So Rashi says that he's apologizing. Why? L'chayre the Eibishter promised him, and the Eibishter said, "Shuv La'atzcha L'Matcha Leitiva Imach." So why is he scared? Because maybe he used up all his brownie points and he was humble in his eyes, thinking that maybe he's not deserving for miracle. So Rashi says one promise was to him, and if the promise to him is already all brownie points are all used up, but he also promised to Avram and Yitzchak. The Samtia Zarachik Tefoil Yom Shalo Yosef Yolon Shamalayla who Vayikach Min Abba Yod Mincha Laisav Yoachiv. He decided to give a mincha. Yizim Mosayim Mas Yoshim Esrim, Elachela Mosayim Ve'elim Esrim, Gemalim Manikas Ableim Shloshim Poris, Arboim Porim Asara, Sonis Esrim, Vayonam Asara, Vitimi Adavod, Eider, Lavada, Vayimar Lavod, Ivru Lafon, Verevet to Simu Ben Eider. Why the Russia should see, it's a big gift. He should see how big of a gift he's getting. It's obviously Rishon Lamik Efakshon. Esav Achi, She'elcha, Leimar, Mi Atol, Vona Se'elach, Lemei Lefanach, Mamart, Lavdach, Yankov, Minter, Shlucha, Adene Leisav, Hine, Gam, Hu Aprene, Betzat, Gam, Zashini, Gam, Zashlishi, Gam, Skol, Oilcha, Macher, Adoram, Leimar, Kadover Zet, Davan, Leitzach, Esav, B'mayat, Zachem, Oise. Marta, Gam, Hine, Avdach, Yaakov, Acheninu, Keomar, Chapra, Ponim, Bamincha, Hayalach, Lafone, V'achir, Acheninu, Ula, Yisafone, through the Mincha, he'll be calmed down. Now I'm going to skip the whole story about how they went over Yamav Yabak and they had a battle with the Malach because it's not relevant to here. Then finally, they actually meet Esav. Vayisa Yaakov Einav. Vayar v'hine Esav ba. We're down. That's it. We're down to the show. V'hine Esav ba. V'ime arba meisish. Vayachat s'ayalodim. And he split the Yeladim Aleya V'Arocha V'Ashtei Ashvachas V'Yosem Es Ashvachas V'Yaldeim Rishona V'Esleya V'Leya Acharenim V'Arocha V'Yosef Acharenim Achran Chavim, says Rashi. Achran Chavim. You shouldn't think that he put Yosef last because you know what, the other kids he doesn't care that much. If they get killed, Yosef he cares more. Rashi is Achran Chavim V'Over L'Fneim V'Ishtachevu Arza Sheva Pomim Adgishta Achiv. All of a sudden, V'Yoretz Esav L'Krosay V'Yechabkeyu V'Yipol Al Tzavora V'Yishakeyu V'Yif.
Well, you know what? He didn't like the Israeli idea. The commander always go in the front, so he went in the front, Yaakov.
Yeah.
In front of everybody.
Yaakov know that Esav's going to go on his side. What do you mean on his side? He split him on two sides.
Okay, it's a good question. Pirish Rashi.
Wasn't one hiding and one moved forward? No.
I don't know. If you think so, we'll this is what we want to examine now. Rashi says, Al Korche.
Behind the left.
Al Ki El Samim. If you really just read the Rashi slowly, you see that Rashi is not reading it the way I was explaining it before. Rashi didn't say that he's going to tie up the two investments in two opposite places. Half the money is going to invest in Russia and half in China, or half in China, half in the U.S. That's not what Rashi said. He says, "V'hoya macha anishal pleita al korchei al korchei." So what does it mean al korchei? That the second group is gonna be alive al korchei, or that everyone is gonna leave al korchei? Rashi says al korchei ke'elchemim iskim atzul l'shloisha dvarim. He paired himself for three things. L'doida l'tfin l'machama. L'doida, it says in the pasuk, "V'tavar mincha al bonav." L'tfila, it says elakei abi Avram. Al-Malchama, because it says "V'hoya macha nishar lefleita." The Rebbe says like mamish. You don't understand one word. The two words of Rashi do not go together well. First of all, what's wrong in the pasuk? The pasuk already said that he was scared that the chas v'sholom, the whole family, will be killed. So he split them into machanas. If chas v'sholom he'll attack one machana, the other one will run away. So Rashi's just saying, "Oh, how is the other one going to run away? Because I'm going to tie him up in war, and that's how they're going to run away." That's not. Doesn't seem that that's a chidush that Rashi has to say that. It seems that Rashi wants to say they're all going to survive. But that's not l'chayda what the pasuk is saying. And Rashi, and what's negay in this Rashi all of a sudden to say hiskinatzim l'shlosh dvarim, and then Rashi said l'doyel tefillah machama. He brings very.
What does one thing have to do with the other?
Right. What is one? And what he brings psukim backwards. He brings first pasuk chavbeis, then pasuk yud, then pasuk tes.
Right.
The madrashim taka bring all different psukim. Rashi decided to pick his own psukim, not from the madrashim. The Sifsei Chacham say al korchi ke'elchem imay. Sifsei is always the simplest pshat bas. Always the simplest pshat in explaining Rashi. Retzoyne lefarish ke'elchem imay. Azay bevada yipnai lamachna shniya limloit. That's he says. Yeah, taka. That just Rashi is adding the how am I know for sure the other one is going to be able to run away? Because one group will tie him up at war. Mashal kosav nire the medaktik medaloksiv ulay. It doesn't say ulay machna shniya will be played. It says v'hoya mashma debal korchecha. V'hoya means for sure, but not everyone agrees with this. V'hoya zeh medaktik de l'kay madrash hiskin atzma l'shloish dvarim. Rashi wanted to make the drash of Chazal make sense. The Yev shel Farish ulay dim ken yosem estaber l'kavetz akal machna achos ulay lochem ulay is gaber Allah beroivam. This beroivam is you could win better. So if he had a doubt, so what's going on? Bishlem amachn nishabal korchati lipleit shapirov chachol l'shnei machnas kimutve litvois as vade hatzol l'machna nishur afapi shamachna achas ti yoyse besakona malichnas besakona kulam v'sofek hatzol l'kulam. So that's the way he's explaining Rashi. Basically, he's explaining Rashi the way I said in the pshat of the pasuk taka that there's two ways of doing war. It's like an excruciating moral question, like Israel's question that I have now. Should like Shemamish, it was excruciating, painful decision Yaakov had to make. That he says Yaakov had a choice. Are we going to have all of us fight? We all survive maybe, but if Chas v'Sholom it goes south, that's the end. Or one group will fight, and then their survival chances are quite low, but the chances for the other group will be much, much higher. Wow. It's like an unbelievable moral dilemma. I'm not going to try to draw exact lines to what's happening today. Just suffice it to say that right now there is a dilemma. A decision has been made. They didn't ask me or Sasson, and they did what they did, and the Eibusha should help that every single Jew should come out. It was a decision to make that they decided that they're going to take Litves as Avadai. They'll take. I think a little of my thoughts are coming through even inadvertently. So they made the decision that they're going to take as Avadai. They'll take the hostages, whoever they can take, and even though it's clear that the other ones are now in a much more difficult situation.
Who's the other one?
So the other ones are soldiers. The ones are soldiers. Yeah. So if they had said everyone or no one, they would have a better chance for the other ones. Mm-hmm. They took the road to say now there's other considerations over here, military, and I'm not going into those considerations. I'm just going about this. So the Sifsei Chacham says that Yaakov Avinu was sitting in the war cabinet in Israel right now, and the question was, should we litvas avada? Should we take 13 hostages a day for the next 4 days? but the other ones are going to be beyoyse besakona, in a bigger danger, the other ones. Or should we say all or nothing? And Yaakov came down on the side that Litvis is avade. Let's take out 13 a day and take what we can do. That's the way, with a little salt and pepper, that's what the Sifsei Chomim is saying. Kuraya says a little differently.
It's not necessarily an issue of all or nothing, because let's say had they not agreed to this thing that they did make, it would not mean that all of the hostages are going to die. There are other ways to pressure the Rishonim, and if they would just continue to proceed with the war, they would have, on the contrary, put them into even more pressure, and they would have softened up their terms.
Right. There's other considerations.
Not only that, but there was like the one thing of the deal was just simply crazy, that Israel had to agree not to make drones, not to send aerial surveillance over Gaza.
Right.
So to give them freedom
to
move around and to transport their weaponry and their troops and everything.
Well, I think they don't want them knowing where they're taking the prisoners.
And I don't think anything without the Hamas it's limited.
Something gets in from a satellite.
Let's continue. Okay.
Very interesting.
Okay, let's go to the Gur Arya. Al Korche, Dim Loike, no lo yod, min no yod the tir bevade lepleta. He's also, it brings up that Rashi is bothered, V'hoya. How do you know for sure V'hoya? V'hikshe, about Reb Avram Ibn Ezra, had eksiv, im techse karam imenu V'hoya li Lishua. You don't know V'hoya, because over there it says V'hoya. That V'hoya could be im and V'hoya. That we don't know for sure. Also over here, it says the first im, because it says in the pasuk, and look again in pasuk Tez, Vayomer im yoveyetzor nachal veko. V'hoya doesn't mean lashon rabbi. It's on the tzad of im. That's what the Ibn Ezra says. He says who says im means for sure. So that was a question of the Ibn Ezra back in the Gur Arya. V'tiritz aram the megufa mikra ein lilmad elma kabbalas chazal shamra tanchuma dotzam at the shrabe and kehelas. V'hiskenatzim l'shloisha dvarim. The taka from the pasuk we don't know this. We know it from a medrash. Right away know that Rebbe is not going to like this pshat because the Rebbe holds that Rashi is not a collection of medrashim. He many times misquotes medrashim. The fact that he many times misquotes medrashim tells you that even if he quotes the medrash word for word, it's not because the medrash said so. It's because he thought that in pshat this goes well in the pasuk. Anyway, so the Ram says no. This is a drash. It's a medrash. Rashi just said it. Okay, let's go to the Mizrahi. The Mizrahi says, like Kosha v'achacham Ibn Izra zechroinu lebracha matana lo min v'yisel li Yeshua shepirshu ulai tir li Yeshua. Not like those that thought that Rashi's the thing was he was from the pasuk v'hoya. V'hoya means for sure they're going to survive, and the pshat is al korchay means for sure. Sherei gabe v'ozav v'savim v'meis yirishar im yaz doy gimon shema yom. So David Azal shema his counsel gimel dvarim.
Why are they struggling with al korchay? What's the struggle with that word?
They didn't learn like the Sifsei Chachamim. They learned. You see from their struggle, they didn't learn that it means al korchay. I'm going to tie him up by war. By 50 people are going to fight with him, and the other, I'm giving him just a number. The 50 people will fight with him, the other 50 will flee immediately. They learned in Rashi
against the wish of Asa
that we're all going to survive. Al Korchay, we're all going to survive. Ki el chamimoy.
Al Korchay means against your wish.
Against Asa's wish. Klal, it's a funny lashon. Why does it have to say Al Korchay? This is one of the questions that I've asked. Why does it have to say Al Korchay? But they're learning not like the Sifsei Chachamim. They're learning that the pshat is v'hoya ki el chamimai, that for sure we're all going to survive. We're for sure all going to survive. Totally different than the pashut pshat in the pasuk. The pashut pshat in the pasuk is he split the group into two, and maybe chas v'sham one will get caught up in war and the other one will flee. They, the Gur Arya and the Mizrahi, they're learning no, and the Ibn Ezra also probably. They learned that. So that's the shayk. But they read Rashi. They couldn't what Rashi's saying that one is going to tie them in war and the other. That's what the pasuk is saying. Rashi's not being mechadish or anything. Right. They right away said, oh, Rashi is saying that Bal Korcha, we're all going to survive because I'm going to stand with my bare hands and fight him. So they said, what's the I in the pasuk? It says, right? It doesn't, and right. It doesn't. That's what they're trying. So they say, oh, because Rashi said v'hoya. Word v'hoya means bevadai. So they're grappling with it. They're not, and they're not answering. They're saying, oh, because the Medrash says it. Yeah. But that's not so much of an answer. Let's skip to the Ramban. The Ramban says he skipped. No, Mizrahi is from the big. No, he lived about 450 years ago. He was the Rabbi Roshi of Istanbul. No, 1492. He writes that he took off a whole year from learning from everything to save Yidden that were coming in the ships. And he influenced the Sultan to take them in. He was Gedolah Mefarshim Shel Harashi. He was considered like the first Godel B'Yisrael to make a comprehensive shot on Rashi, to explain Rashi from the Asogas and Ramban. Right. You would expect that one of the Ashkenazi Gedolim would be the first one to do it, but no. As one of the Sephardi Gedolim, the first ones for the cover of Rashi against the Ramban. Doesn't make sense. The Ramban was a Sephardi. He should have went with the Ramban. But this is Torah. Right. There's no party. There's no party lines. And especially if we get into Chanukah, where the Ashkenazim do like the Rambam, and the Sephardim do like Tosfos. So let's skip the Ramban. The Ramban says, Hiskinatzmoy l'shloisha dvorim v'chein ikir v'kavana b'zeki Yaakov yeridea she'in zarei kulei neufel b'yadesav im kein yinotzel achad al kaponim v'gam ze yirmas shelo yigzur aleinu b'nei esav limchas hashmeinu v'yasu ros im ktsoseinu b'miktzas harotzes shalahem melech echad v'ngoyze b'artza al mameinu al gufeinu melech achad merachim b'mkoyim v'matzel apleitim v'kacham b'reishis rabba Yobe Esav al Machachas Viko Elo Achim Shebedorim Vayam Achim Lisha Lif later Elo Achelim Shebegoyla Reu Kigam Ledoides Tirmas Zoisa Parsha. So powerful. If you go today to Barcelona, they try to emphasize their Jew because there's no tourism there. So, but if they could make another church, every block has 3 churches. What's the chiddush? So, but the Jewish history is a chiddush. So there's a plaque in a very fancy building. The very impressive building in the center of Barcelona, where they write that this was the place where there was a famous disputation of the Ramban, Keneged Shumad and Koimrim, where the Ramban went out with Yoda al Yoina. Even though Ramban won, he went out with the upper hand. Yes. And even though he went out with the upper hand, as soon as he left, it was over a week or something, this disputation took place. As soon as he left and he won, it was a rare thing. I mean, the Christians throughout the ages, didn't matter. They always won. Didn't matter, but they always decided that they won. Right. It was a pella that the Ramban, the Gödel Chachmosek, the Shosai, that they all were moided that he won the disputation. It's like he walked out, he said, I'm not safe here anymore. And that's when he left it and he went for Eretz Yisrael. He said, I won the disputation. That's it. I'm out. I'm packing my bags and I'm going. So, but the Ramban says from his parshas at Emes that the Bnei Esav are always going to persecute the Jewish people, but there will always be another country that will be Lepleta. In his time, his country was considered a very safe place for the Jewish people. Turned out that became the most unsafe place afterwards. That's the pshat of the Ramban. The Rebbe says, needless to say, that Rashi is not saying the Ramban pshat. You just have to look at Rashi for a second. He's not saying Ramban pshat. So what is Rashi saying? Bekitza. The Rebbe says that even a child might look at the story and find something odd. Few things odd. First thing that's very odd is a Yid is not tzara. What does a Yid do when a Yid is not tzara? The Cossacks are coming. A kid knows what happens when the Cossacks are coming. What's the first thing we do? Mishlat Tehillim. Mazok Tehillim. Here, doesn't look like this is the first thing he's doing. First thing, okay, Mela, that he sent him a message. You could say that his mother sent him a message that everything is safe. Maybe should tell him to come back. He didn't know there's a problem going. He just sent a delegation. Everything was going good. All of a sudden, they come back and they say, "Oh, nothing is good. This guy is Esav Arosha. So right away, what should be the next word? And he schlepped that Sefer Tehillim and started to say Tehillim. No, it says Vayachetz later. And then he starts tefillah. This is one very odd thing. A kid is wondering. He says to Rebbe, what's going on? Why is it that the first thing he's doing is he's starting to do military strategy and then he's tefillah? Another thing a child asks, and it also doesn't make sense. It's wait a minute. When they finish learning the vayachatz, when you do yachatz and the matzah and you break it and you ask the kids which is the bigger and which is the smaller piece, the vayachatz over here, the doesn't fit. The first vayachatz and the second vayachatz, the pieces don't fit. They don't go together. Because the second time it says vayachatz, it was vayisa Yaakov eina v'yarvin esa bo v'im arba meisish vayachatz es hayelodim aleya v'arochav v'shtes v'okres v'yosem es hashvachim v'arishonim v'slev v'acharonim v'serochav v'acharonim. And from Rashi, it seems pretty clear, just from the pasuk, there was no two camps. Vayachatz doesn't mean that he split them in half. He made them in formations. There was like a mechitza. There was group 1, 2, 3, but not that. It doesn't look, and it says that Esav looked at them. Esav looked at them, and Rashi says in the next parsha that he looked at them all together. It doesn't look like he had two groups. Where are the two groups? Where's the two groups? You don't see two groups. So it says Vayosem es hashvachos rishona, then Leah v'ladei acharonim, v'serochav v'yosef acharonim. You see three groups. If you think it's groups, it's three groups. It's not two groups. Where's the two groups? So what's the vayachatz going on over here? So therefore, Rashi answers the kasha, the two very good questions. And one question answers the other question. He didn't, before he started saying Tehillim, before he davened, he didn't do any military strategy. What he did was vayachatz. Vayachatz was a preparation for tefillah. You think vayachatz means he made half the team here, team red and team blue? No. Vayachatz, the Rebbe says, you wouldn't say, but the Rebbe thinks that that's what Rashi means. That he took the tzoin and the bakar, he made them in one, and then he took his children and he put them in another group. And then he started to daven. And he said that if Esav's going to come and he's going to kill or capture all the tzoin and all the shepherds, that you never promised me. Now, what happens if Esav comes and he steals from me all my wealth, the gemalim and the chamodim and the tzoin and the bokor and the royim and the shepherds, everything gets stolen from me. I have no complaints. I know, but my children, I'm begging you, Ribono Shel Olam, that everyone should survive. I'm asking that every one of my children. So this vayachatz wasn't the preparation for war. This vayachatz was, he wanted to guarantee, he did something to show what his priorities are. Those that signed the bakar and the royim and the shepherds, whatever happens to them, happens to them. Here, my children, my family, they must be safe. Bal korcha, that's why Rashi learns that over here, even though you can argue about what v'hoya means in every pasuk, but here Rashi learns, not like you might think in the Pashut Pshat. Rashi learns v'hoya machna nisher lefleita means my children. That's so not what you would think the Pshat, but the Rebbe is learning it into Rashi. That what he means, and Rashi he says Bal Korchoi, and they're going to all survive. Why? Because El Chamimai, I'm going to fight. So someone says, how do you know? And what's if he's going to overpower you? So Rashi says, no, he had a plan. He had three parts to his plan. Number one was Ladoidan, to try to appease Esau. Number two was Tefillah. Number three, Milchama. Now, you will ask, why is over here Rashi say Tefillah? In the Pasuk, really, it says that Tefillah was first. According to Rashi, that this first Vayachatz, the Tefillah was first. So, we'll talk about it in a second. But the Rashi says Hiskin. The Rebbe has a diuk. A lot of times we say Heichen, he prepared himself. A Lashon Hiskin is a very strong Lashon. The Rebbe says that Rashi is using the word Hiskin, and he's using these psukim, dafka, to mean like this. Yaakov was a type of person that he had a certain character. Now he's going to do three things that made no sense for his character. Number one, he's going to send a doiroi. What's a doiroi? Rashi says, "Vatavar al minchal ponov." Why that pasuk? If you look at Rashi, what does it mean, "Vatavar al minchal ponov"? The mincha went on his nose. What does it mean? What does it even mean? So Rashi says a medrash, which it's not pshat, but Rashi medrash agoda, that he was very angry. Al ponov means al apev al chamasi. Yaakov was very angry. Why do I have to? This guy? Why this Michigan? I have to give him a gift. I have to give a gift to Esav Arosha. Why do I? He was angry. That's what Rashi says. Vayavar upon him, he was angry. So he's said the bother. That's what Rashi says. That he was bekas. Afu showed a bekas. I'll call Shehoy Tzorich L'Cholzeh. It's a funny lashon. Yaakov was angry. That why do you? I have to give up. So we see Yaakov was not the type of guy who was in the business of giving gifts to a terrorist. He was not that. That wasn't his thing. So Hiskin Atzmoi, he prepared himself, even though it was Hepach Tivoy, it wasn't his teva. It didn't make sense. The type of guy, if you profile Yaakov Avinu, he's the type of guy. He's never giving a terrorist. But this for sure you understand. So he had to prepare himself for this. Also for tefillah. Because Yaakov Avinu says, he strengthened himself, and even though he felt humble, Eitiv, like Rashi said, even if my schus is 0, but my father's schus is strong. That's why Rashi Dafka brings L'tfila L'kei Ovi Avrom, because he's mentioning Dafka Avrom. The Medrash says Atzileini no, because the heart of the tefillah is the heart of his whole tefillah of the 4 or 5 psukim. Atzileini no, save me. But Rashi's the main thing to Rashi is L'kei Ovi Avrom, that he strengthened himself, even though he felt humble that maybe he doesn't deserve. But he knew that it's his family's safety, and therefore he davened to the Eibishter, even when he thought that because of schus avos, even though he thought he didn't deserve it. And the Melchama is that Rashi says already, Vayida v'yetzer lo. I know it sounds funny to quote something in a shir from Golda Meir, but it's a gute word that she said that
to forgive the Arabs for killing her kids, but not forgive them for kids.
She said that one day we'll forgive the Arabs. We're forgiving people. She said the Jews will forgive the Arabs for Rahman al-Islam shechting our children, but we're never going to forgive them for making us kill their children.
Where'd you say that?
It's a famous thing. I don't know. If you want, we can look. There's a couple of bios on here, and we can do a search. That's Azizok de Welt. Maimer Oilam in the name of Golda.
I'll Google it. I'll find it in 30 seconds. He's still bothered. I need to look.
Well, that's a different Maimer Chazal. So Yaakov, Rashi says, Vayida, and even more Vayetzer, that Shema Yehorim v'Shema Yahar Gachedim. It bothered him. Mishigan about the best. It bothered him to no end. It wasn't his teva, Yesh Tom Yoshev Aholim, that he should have to, and the Medrash says he dressed them up with a tricky way. They had their ammunition like hidden ahead. He would bothered him, this whole thing, that he has to go into war. It bothered him. He like Golda Meir said, we will never forgive the Arabs for making us kill their children. So that's that. So therefore, Hiskin, he had to be mischazik, Hiskin atzatz. And therefore, that Rashi picked Dafka these 3 psukim, and the bottom line is that the hemshech in Rashi is that it's bothering that the child. Why didn't he start with tefillah, and why is the vayachatz a different vayachatz? And Rashi answers, vayachatz over here doesn't mean that he split his family. He put his family on the other side, and he said these are for sure going to survive. Why? Because I have a plan. I have a plan. I'm going to daven, and that's Taka the first thing he did. He davened. Then he sent a doiron, and then he went to L'Melchama. The question is why Rashi mentions L'doiron first. There's a few things you could say why he mentioned L'doiron first. Yeah, she did say it.
It's together. It says, when peace comes, we will perhaps in time be able to forgive the Arabs for killing our sons, but it will be harder for us to forgive them for having forced us to kill their sons. Peace will come when the Arabs will love their children more than they hate us.
Now, Goldberg said it.
Rabbi.
Goldberg said that
Is that a Torah hashkafa? I mean, or is that her? Is that
I
her?
told you, maybe that's the way she touched the Rashi.
No, but-
Vayira vayetzer.
How do we?
Vayira was a
It's-
smaller thing.
It's a
Vayetzer
personal
was a bigger
feeling.
thing.
You could relate to it. That's the whole point of a famous saying, is that you can relate to it.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm asking, Torah, is that a proper way to
Saying
look at things?
it's a way of reading Rashi, because that's what Rashi says. Vayira vayetzer. That's what I'm saying. I'm half joking and half saying it. That's what Rashi says. Vayira vayetzer. The first thing, Vayira Shema Yehorik. Vayetzer im Yareg Hu Esachedim. It bothered him even more that the Esav is turning him into a killer.
An eye for an eye, she didn't do like the Chazal. That
No.
she literally did.
No,
Seriously.
But this Rashi should learn. This Rashi should learn well.
Right.
This Rashi should learn well.
She didn't make the terrorists pay like.
No,
Yeah.
that one she didn't learn well. But this Rashi should learn Dafka well.
In Munich, she said we're going to
An
get
eye for an
take
eye.
years and years and years. We get the less.
That she did right.
But that's not the
That
way
she
we-
did.
30 years. What
That she
about
did.
30 years?
That she did right. Okay, so let's
He didn't take the terrorists to figure out what they're worth as an Ebed Knani and.
that she did. That Israel did.
You can give
and
her
then-
the credit.
Yeah, that she got credit for. Let's talk now on Avodas Hashem. First of all, the Rebbe says that also the word hiskin, that actually says l'shlosh advarim. Why? Minyan alamali. Because the doirin and melchama and tefillah are not it's hard for a person to say, okay, that's it. I hate this guy. I'm going. That's it. I'm getting myself a gun permit again. That's it. Enough is enough. Okay. Or you say, you know what? Well, yeah, let's work with this guy. But it's very hard for a human being to hug him, l'doirin, l'melchama at the same time. So therefore, hiskin, it's something very difficult for a person to could say, you know what? We'll try this method, then this one, and this one. But he's trying all three at the same time, and to try three opposite things at the same time is very difficult.
But when you're an FB it's very difficult.
But not if you're
Gangster, it's
right. If you're gangster, you don't mean it.
But it's not genuine.
It's
right.
not genuine. It's no big deal. But if you're ish emes, very good point. Rebbe said, I forgot to bring here. There's they found a piece of paper on the Tzemach Tzedek's desk, like a little note, and like we spoke about this on the Verbrengen the other day. That Hashem says everything a Yid sees and hears is a lesson of Avodas Hashem. There was the Hashem said there was a war somewhere in Ukraine, in the Carpathian Mountains where he was born. It's a 30-year war or something that involved that part of Europe. And he said that the whole 30-year war was because there was a song or a lesson of Avodas Hashem that needed to come out of this war. So here the Tzemach Tzedek refers to some war, and he says that there was a brilliant tactic that one of the sides did. And he says that the Gederach HaMelchama is that there's three groups. There's the right and the left, and there's a middle group. And three flanks. And both sides have three flanks. But the Anshe Tzova on Team Red were mistaken. They were able to get Team Blue to separate the one machane, and three machanes went and they attacked them. They wiped them out. And then they went to the middle machane and they wiped them out. And then they went to the other machane and they wiped them out. And that's how they won the war.
That's how smaller armies win, generally.
Overwhelming force.
They
right.
separate and
Exactly,
one group. Like,
so that Tzemach Tzedek says this is to teach us lesson of Avodas Hashem. He reads in the pasuk V'nesvu Shama Kol Adorim. He says like this that there's in order to go against Chesed of Klippa, which is Yishmael, you need Chesed of Avram. In order to go against Esav, you need the Koyach of Gevur of Yitzchak. But the smarter way of doing a war is that you take all three midas at once. You take all three Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, and you first kill Yishmael. Then you take your Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes, and you kill Esav. And that's the way you do. You take all your midas, the Kedusha, simultaneously, and you separate the one enemy at a time, and you overwhelm him in an unbelievable way with all the midas, the Kedusha together. So Tzedek is not giving a practical application of how you do
how
it.
do you decide which one to do first?
I don't know. Maybe you flip a coin, but or maybe the first one that's Nageya, and that part is what Tzedek doesn't say. But the Rebbe says that this is really we see it here by Yaakov Avinu, that he did three things that that Milchama and Doidon, one is Chesed, one is Gvuda, and like you said, Yaakov is Isha Emes. He's not an Arab who's bringing you into his tent and feeding a person and then stabbing them in the back.
No?
Huh?
The tefillah is the word.
No. Milchama l'chayr is Gvuda. He's going to kill. Tefillah. Here, tefillah is maybe. Yeah, I don't know. We have to. So here, Doidan is Chesed. Milchama is Gvuda. So you have to say that tefillah is the kava emtza.
Well, what is Doidan?
A gift.
And because the truth is, the reason why tefillah could be emtza is because bakosha rachamim. And bakosha rachamim usually rachamim is very associated to Yaakov Avinu. Say rachamim is like a blend of chesed and gevura. Tefillah is bakosha rachamim. So that end, sometimes we look at tefillah as kava emtzoi.
One thing you see in the whole Maisa is that Yaakov al pi nevuah, or through his own efforts of spying, all these cheshbonos about two groups or putting the cattle on one side and the family on the other, is that anyone will tell you when they do a strategy of the military is, you know what, you want to know what the enemy's doing. So that all we know is that Asa's coming with 400 men. We don't know if he's bringing 2 groups or 3 groups or 10 groups. So that some of these
it's not exactly here.
Well, every time he sent a gift, he got information
on
what's going on.
It's not exactly. He's just saying on a spiritual level.
Yeah,
he did, and also physically, it was his skenatzma. It was a difficult thing to simultaneously do 3 opposite things, similar to what the Tzemach Tzedek says in V'nes Hushon Kol Adorim. The Golol was Evan. When you have a big Evan, you need Kol Adorim. Similar to that you have 3 flanks against 1. Similar to that, we have here that he used 3 different approaches, almost opposite approaches.
You have 2 camps, then you don't.
We already decided there's no 2 camps. We already long decided that there's no 2 camps. The sheep and the goats was the other camp, and even that was only symbolic for the tefillah.
Yeah.
So they shall help him. That the bottom line is that. Every one of us should be matzliach to overpower our Yishmael, now our Esav. There's no question that if we manage to overpower our Yishmael, now our Esav, that the big Yishmael and the big Esav in the world. I mean, even in Rashi, which is Pshat, when we have the battle of Yaakov, I mean, it's a spiritual battle. That before the physical battle, there's a spiritual battle that goes on, and that goes on first. And when Yaakov overpowers Sori Shel Esav, he knows that he's going to succeed with Esav too. So first, every one of us should knock out the Yishmael that's in us, and the Esav that's in us, and then we shall help him that in Eretz Yisrael we should be able to knock out the clip of Yishmael and Esav. L'chaim.
I actually found it one day talking about the back and forth on the hearing and while I'm passing up.